Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of our NR 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season. Coming your way today, we have Talladega Super Speedway for 113 laps, 25 laps in stage 1 and 2, and then 63 until the end of this race at Talladega, our middle race of the round of 12 here in the playoffs. Martin Truex Jr. won last week in Las Vegas, locking himself in. We had top contenders like Kyle Larson run into trouble, and he's only 15 points above the cut line here today. I am joined as usual by JayCook, getting ready to go green here in Talladega. Jay, what do you expect to see out of Talladega today? We know it's going to be 3-4 wide, consistent racing. Anything could potentially happen.
Yeah, and I think we could see a pretty crazy race here today. I think we can see this, or I think we'll see this race and next race at the Roval potentially be wild card races. And we've also got a pretty close grid at the moment as well. So going into Talladega, that puts a lot of drivers, I'm sure, in a very uncomfortable position, especially Joey Logano, who's now the last one on the grid. Kyle Larson went from being 36 points above the cut line when we went into Las Vegas to now only 15 points above the cut line. So Larson also, I'm sure, is now uncomfortable. And so we're going to have a lot of drivers here be aggressive, I think. And we're also going to see some guys try and go for every point that they can. And they know this is their best opportunity to get constant stage points and also a win.
Chase Elliott on pole, joined by Ryan Blaney there on the front row. Joey Logano in behind in P3. Logano comes into today 25 points below the cut line after trouble in Las Vegas. So he is the last driver in the playoffs right now. And Jay had a lot of work to do for the Penske driver of Joey Logano. And he's probably coming into the one track where we could expect him to run up front and potentially find himself above the cut line at the end of today, especially if he stays out of trouble.
Yeah, I think that we can see that for a lot of drivers as well. We can say that for a lot of drivers in the playoffs at the moment, and a lot of these drivers here are going to want to do everything that they can to not get themselves involved in a wreck. We can maybe see some drop to the back. We could maybe see someone like Denny Hamlin, who's 51 points above, drop to the back, make sure he doesn't get himself involved in a wreck. And then we could also see someone like Cole Custer go for everything. He's only 4 points above, or Brad Keselowski is only 7 points down, and we know how good he is at play tracks, or even like you mentioned, Chase Elliott here, do everything he can to stay out front and try and find himself in victory lane because you know how good he is at play tracks. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of different strategies here from playoff drivers early, and I think that some of them are going to be playing the game of not wanting to get involved in a wreck.
So the green flag is out here from Talladega Super Speedway. Like we said, 113 laps coming your way today. Stage 1 comes to a conclusion once we complete lap 25, hitting lap 26. Stage 2 completes at the end of lap 50, hitting lap 51. And then, of course, the race completes at the end of lap 113. Now, like we said, you expect to see 3-4 wide racing all day long. 5 wide might be a little bit risky here. Now, as they come through turn 3, you see Kyle Larson in the middle of 3 wide. Now, last week in Las Vegas, Kyle Larson, who's been the top seed in the playoffs, found himself into some trouble there, as we believe maybe had a tire going down or some loose lug nuts. They had to come into the pit lane and put right side tires on their car after a pit stop a few laps prior. And Jay, that puts them in a tight position here in Talladega. And Kyle Larson isn't known to have a lot of success at plate tracks in general, so he really is not comfortable whatsoever going into today's race in Talladega when he's only 15 points above that cut line.
And I'm sure that makes him very uncomfortable as well. He like you said, he doesn't have the greatest rap sheet at plate tracks, and he's only 15 points above now, which is something that we have not. I don't think that I expected even to happen to Larson, especially with this round, the first race of it being Las Vegas. You expect maybe that to happen after Talladega, but for Larson, it happened to him after the first race, which was supposed to not be the wild card race of this round. So for Larson, I'm sure he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders at the moment. He knows that he's the championship favorite. I'm sure he thinks of himself as a championship favorite, and he's only 15 points above it at the moment going into the second race of this round. Anything can happen. He can get caught up in a wreck early here and then be in a really huge hole going into the Roval. So there's a lot of things that I'm sure that team is watching out for, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that he's not already dropping himself to the back. If I'm Kyle Larson, I drop myself to the back early in this race and try and just survive and then try and be around for the end of it to go for a win.
Now, what do you expect from the majority of these playoff drivers in stage 1 and 2? Do you expect most of them to play that kind of plan and stick to the back outside of the top 10? Or do you expect some key drivers to be up there in the mix, maybe like a Joey Logano, a Keselowski, who find themselves below the cut line?
I think it all depends on how desperate you are for points and how desperate you are to have a good race this week in case you don't have a good one next week. If you're a guy like Joey Logano who does not feel like you'll have a good race at the Roval, maybe. So Logano might be aggressive here and go for everything, go for every point possible and try and go for the win as well. But if you're somebody like Larson who's been good on road courses and been good just about everywhere this season, maybe you take your chances at the Roval, drop back here and then hope you can come back towards the front towards the end of this race. Anybody around that cut line, like say Kurt Busch or Almirola, they probably want to go for points. Brad Keselowski as well. William Byron, who's 20 points above, might want to fall back. So anybody who's up towards the top of this grid, 20 points plus, they might want to drop back. And anybody who's around that cutoff line is going to go for every point possible because they know it's important, even though this is Talladega and anything can happen.
Alex Bowman currently leading the way over Ryan Newman. Quinn Half up here in the mix of 78 of BJ McLeod, Kurt Busch, Ryan Preece, and some Rick Ware racing cars there even in the mix now. You got that 51 of Cody Ware on that inside line down into turns 1. As you see, a lot of 4-wide racing happening here from Talladega. We have done some testing in the background. We got some trouble actually. Oh, there's a playoff contenders. Multiple playoff contenders there as the caution is going to come out already on lap 5 here in Talladega. Now, as I believe the caution is out. Yes, it is. And immediately, Jay, we look. Joey Logano takes a big hit there. And surprisingly, the 2 and the 19 as well picked up some damage. And William Byron as well. We just saw a quarter of the playoff grid just run into issues on the 5th lap of this race.
And for Joey Logano, that is the worst possible scenario, to be out of this race already. No chance of even scoring points. And that's just a terrible situation for that driver who's, again, not known for being the best road course racer, especially at the Roval. So I think that we'll see Logano surprisingly get eliminated in this round. I don't expect him to be a contender next week at the Roval for the win. So that is extremely unfortunate for him. For William Byron, it's unfortunate for him as well. But again, he's 20 points above. He should be okay as long as he's able to keep running. And then Brad Keselowski, that's another bad situation for Brad Keselowski as well. He's got some damage to that car, and he's 7 points out. And I'm sure this is probably for him what he feels like is his best track. So as long as Keselowski is able to get that damage repaired, he might still be competitive. But playoff guys running into issues very quickly here.
Let's get a look immediately at what just happened here in Talladega, setting up some interesting playoff scenarios for some playoff drivers. Here's a look at what happened. We were talking about 5 wide being a bit of a no-go, and Ryan Blaney decides to stick his nose right there. Actually, it is, 5 wide, and the 47 just gets straight up hooked right there, and you saw the 22 of Logano, the 19 of Truex get involved, and Keselowski will have another angle here in just a second there, but Logano gonna be out already in Talladega. Another angle of that accident with the 2 Penske drivers. I mean, all of Penske Racing actually involved in that accident. Jay, not much Logano or Keselowski could do, and even Byron and Truex as well there.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Logano, like I said, that's going to be a DNF for him immediately. It looks like his engine expired as soon as he hit the wall. But for Brad Keselowski, even though it is unfortunate he's involved in this wreck, I think he'll still be okay. And kind of the same thing for the 24 and maybe the 19 as well, although he does actually have heavier damage than I thought he did. So Penske Racing was kind of struggling in this round a little bit, aside from Ryan Blaney. Well, now they are really struggling. And this was, I'm sure that all of them were thinking this is their best opportunity with how good Penske is at play tracks. And unfortunately for a couple of their drivers, they ran into some big trouble early.
Now back getting ready to go green here already on lap 9. Coming to lap 10, it'll be just over 15 laps remaining here in stage 1. And Jay, we've already seen in the first 5 laps of this race, 2 drivers below the cut line get taken out in an accident. Logano is done for the day. Keselowski's still on track. Not sure what speed he's going to have, but nonetheless, I mean, if he's down a little bit on power, that's going to be game-changing for him. And this is about to become a very rough day for Penske, as honestly, Ryan Blaney might have just ended 2 teammates' chances of making it into the round of 8.
And I'm interested to see if that wreck maybe changes the complexion of this race. It changes the intensity of it. Maybe we see it calm down a bit. Some of these playoff drivers don't want to be as risky and put themselves in a situation that we just saw the 2, the 12, the 22, and the 19 all get into. But right away, I might be improved wrong. They're kind of going at it a little bit here. They're not necessarily in a 3-wide pack yet, but they are making moves all over the place. So maybe the intensity will not calm down here, and we might see another incident happen again.
Looks like Byron, who was involved in that accident, still has some pace in that number 24 Exalta Chevrolet, so don't write him off now. Keselowski looks like he might be a little bit off the pace and he's going to struggle. And oh, well, as we say, William Byron, he's going to be coming into the pit lane. So Just like that, we got even more playoff implications here on just the 10th lap of Talladega. We've already had, 3, 4 playoff implications now. Is what is the 24 going to be doing here? Are they going to be doing tires? I'm not quite sure. They're just might have just been potentially a stop and go penalty, Jay.
Something, yeah, something with that team there. I don't know if it's a stop and go penalty or maybe they felt they needed to come down and get enough fuel in it to make it to the end of the stage. No, they can easily make it to the end of the stage without pitting, so I'm not too sure. Maybe the only thing I can think of is a stop and go penalty, unless they thought they needed to tighten a lug or two and it didn't need to jack up the car for it.
Very baffling moment right there. As you can see, a lot of separation currently, actually, in the pack, and you can definitely see Keselowski, Truex, Stenhouse all off the pace. Now, Byron is still on the lead lap, but of course, this pack right here is going to catch him, and it's going to be crucial for Byron to stay in front of these guys as well, because if he ends up a lap down, you don't get no lucky dog here at Talladega, or any track, of course, in NR2003. So, Jay, of course, it's going to be absolutely crucial for him. I mean, his playoffs, his season could be on the line right here in terms of if he stays on the lead lap in stage one or not.
Again, though, luckily for Byron, he came into this race with a 20-point cushion, so he still has a lot of time in this race for things to happen as well. If he can catch this lead group here and maybe keep down the front of his teammate Alex Bowman, excuse me, then maybe he can keep himself on the lead lap. And if the caution comes out, he might be able to get to the tail end of this field. And also at the same time, too, there's a lot of time for things to happen to other playoff drivers in this race as well. So Byron can't be in panic mode at the moment. But I think that the strategy for them now is going to be trying to hold on to this lead group.
And there you see, right now it's not 3, 4 wide. Right now it's pretty calm at the moment now, as they will be coming up on that 24 of Byron as the exit turns 2, and Bowman is going to get right to the back of him, and he is going to try and go around the outside. Here comes Kevin Harvick on the inside, who's actually going to tuck in behind the number 24. So Byron currently scored 1 lap down. We know he has speed in that car to hopefully, for him, get back on the lead lap, but we're about to see the real pace if he can even suck up to the leader now, as it looks like it could really go either way at the moment, as we're seeing the pack start to organize and get shaped up once again here, as we're going to get some 3, maybe even 4 wide racing now. Seeing, Jay, a lot of playoff contenders up here in the top 10. Maybe not surprising. They saw what just happened. Maybe a lot of the guys don't want to take any risks at this point in time.
Yeah, that's very possible. That's some of the thinking for some of these playoff drivers. But you can't throw away points. You can't go to the back here and just willingly throw away points. You maybe can ride around here for the next, I don't know, 5 or 6 laps, but then you got to go when this stage starts to come to the end. And you can also make moves happen here pretty quickly as well. So these drivers have plenty of time to make moves and make things happen still, but they just have to be careful that they don't get too far back, where they either lose sight of the pack or they get stuck behind somebody who doesn't go. Any number of things that can happen. They also have to be sure still to get themselves the points they want.
Bit of a frame rate drop, which we have like every week, 2 or so times per race, and the way we're going to solve that is actually take like a 30-second or so break. As you know what, as I say that, it seems like it's resolved. So we're going to stay right here. Oh, no, hold up. It's very hard to tell now, as yes, there's still some frame rate drops, but it looks like it might be already getting resolved. I cannot tell at this point, but it will be coming to 10 laps to go in stage 1, and we are going to stay right here. It looks like we're going to be okay. So Kyle Busch leads the way down the back straightaway now. A very weird looking pack. You see a big line on the inside back there. Chase Elliott up here in the mix in that 9 car. He's got Eric Jones on his inside. Matt DiBenedetto, another guy, Jay. Matt DiBenedetto needs to be up here getting stage points. He's below the cut line as well, and the whole Penske organization and affiliates are just not right now in a great position today in Talladega.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney is the only one who's in a decent position, and he himself is not in a great one. If he winds up in a wreck here, he can find himself in a position like his other teammates, where he's below the cut line or close to it. And we can wind up seeing all of Penske get eliminated in this round if they're not careful. So Blaney, you can't really play the teammate game of helping out DiBenedetto or Keselowski if he's able to get up here. We're just going to have to, or Blaney's going to have to go for points still, and then maybe towards the end of this race, if his teammates are around him, maybe he can sacrifice a good finish for him and go help out his teammates. But again, they still got to play for Ryan Blaney's strategy at the moment and make sure he scores points.
Denny Hamlin currently out front in that offer pad. Toyota Camry. Cole Custer up here in the mix as well. You see Bubba Wallace on the outside with Kyle Busch there. Joe Gibbs racing affiliate teammate now, as Hamlin tries to cover off all 3 and even at sometimes 4 lanes there, as you see Christopher Bell trying to make that 4th lane work. In the very back, Timmy Hill up here in the mix as well. We look a little bit further back. Byron is holding on to the tail end of this pack. And then, of course, you see in the background there, we got a couple of cars there, the 16 of Gralla and the 53 of J.J. Yaley. Then you have these 3 slow cars. You got the 47 of Stenhouse, the 2 of Keselowski, and the 19 of Truex. Now, Jay, of course, fortunately for Truex, he's already locked into the next round. And we have talked about him heating up here in the playoffs. He's been unbelievable in the last half of the season so far, and it turned out that, you know what, he chose the perfect time of the season to pick up that first win.
And I think he's slowly creeping into being a favorite to win the championship. I don't think he's above the 11 or the 5, certainly at this point, but he's still, I think, creeping up there. And I think that at the moment, I look to him to be one of those Final Four drivers, and then Phoenix is a good track for him as well. It's a good track for really anybody who I think is a championship favorite at the moment, the 11, the 5, and the 19. So I think that this could be a very good championship battle if Martin Truex Jr. is able to make it. And then we also expect the 11 and the 5 to make it, but we're not there yet. We still have a lot of time to go, a lot of things that can happen to any one of these drivers in the field. Who knows? We might see a Final Four of the 41, the 1, and I can't think the 12 and the 21. You never know. There's so many things that can still happen in this playoffs. Very unlikely that a scenario like that happens, but nothing is written in stone yet.
I mean, it is NR 2003 we're talking about. Absolutely anything can happen in this series. We've seen throughout this year, early on, Homestead Miami Speedway, we saw Joey Logano end up in the inside catch fence, stuck about 10 feet in the air. We've seen Tyler Reddick go head on into the barrels in Dover on the pit entry. We had so many different things we have seen. We've seen Brad Keselowski put Matt Benedetto into a barrier at Watkins Glen and flip himself over multiple times. It's unbelievable some of the scenes we have seen in NR 2003. We've seen big crashes in Talladega, of course, opens up that door. And we had actually had a practice run of this race beforehand. And Jay, what did we see happen in that one?
Well, total absolute chaos. It resulted in only about 17 or so cars left, and of those 17, 14 or so were competitive. And it also resulted in pretty much every single playoff driver, aside from I think 3 or 4, being completely destroyed and DNF'd.
Oh, speaking of that, we got a crash down the back straightaway. In the background, it's going to be a good chunk of cars here. Suarez involved, the 00, as well as the 9 of Chase Elliott, who doesn't get much damage. He just got spun around. I saw the 5 of Kyle Larson maybe get a piece of it in that Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. Some front-end damage there as a caution will come out late in stage 1. A big moment there. I couldn't tell what caused it. They weren't doing any 5 wide nonsense, so I'm very baffled there. As surprisingly, I mean, we look at cars that got damaged, the 38, the 00, the 99, as well as that actually might somehow be really it for major damage. Kyle Larson does have a little bit of front end damage. The 42's got some left side and back bumper damage. And where's the 9 of Chase Elliott? It's the real question. There he is right there. So you see the 37 as well with a little bit of damage. But another moment, Jay, that could have been a lot larger there as they were towards the front of that pack.
That was also, slow down his shoes. First time we've seen this in a while. Chase Elliott, I think, might have just gotten his damage that he didn't have much of. Pretty sure he's the one who ran into the back of that 37 car. Or it might have been the 23.
The 23. The 23 of Bubba Wallace, but I do see a little bit of front end damage on the 9, which I believe he already had actually from that accident. So that 37 is junked as they will be coming to the pit lane.
We should probably stay away from talking about incidents for the night, Mr. Owen, because that is twice now. We were just talking about a wreck that happened in another race, or in another Talladega race, and it causes that huge one there, and then we're talking about the race, or the incident that just happened, and it causes another incident on the slowdown. So I think we should just stay away from talking about wrecks for the rest of the night.
Yeah, and as well, in our practice event, we were talking about Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. maybe working together to try and win that race, and in less than 30 seconds later, they had both wrecked each other out pretty much of that race. So we're going to see what happens here on the pit lane. Just thank goodness a lot of cars didn't crash right there, but more damage was done, honestly, under caution. As you can see, a few drivers are going to be out already. Suarez, he's going to be, if he's still in the race, which he is out, Suarez is out. At least a lot of the cars with heavy damage seems to be out of this race, but the 23 is going to stay in it, so you know he's going to be off the pace. But we're definitely going to keep an eye on that 9 of Chase Elliott, who did pick up some damage. Oh, the 19 and the 1 have come together on the pit lane, and now the 1 car of Kurt Busch has some right side damage as well, as that's nothing we can do about that. Of course, it's just NR2003 being NR2003. Elliott's going to spend a little bit of extra time. There's Kyle Larson. You can see some damage on his car, but he did not fix that, so they must be pretty confident that it's not going to affect their speed, as Elliott as well comes out of the pit lane. So let's get a look, though, at the first not multi-car accident, but first somewhat of a big accident here from Talladega. Here's a look at what happened right here. Chastain actually gets into the side of the 34 down the straightaway, and that's going to turn them both into the outside wall, and they go crashing. The 5 of Kyle Larson gets hit a couple times, but no major damage there, as you see multiple cars piling in. Suarez, the 37, Elliott, who got extremely lucky there. We're going to have an onboard with him as well. There's multiple cars go around, but only a few cars take some severe damage, thank goodness, here from Talladega. View from the back of Chase Elliott now. You see the crash happen in front of him, right in the middle of the main pack. Elliott goes to the inside, right there, gets hit in the door. Not much he could do. He didn't know that was coming, but that was all that happened to him. Even goes airborne a little bit there, as a big break for the 9 of Chase Elliott here in Talladega. Back, already taking the green flag just in time here, as it's actually 1 lap dash to decide the stage 1 conclusion here in Talladega now, as the stage comes to a close at the end of lap 25. So these guys only have 35 seconds to figure something out, and I mean, there's not a lot everybody can do. As you can see how spread out everything is here now, as that's just what happens at these plate tracks on these restarts in NR 2003. Down the back straightaway for the final time into turn 3. Christopher Bell leads the way. Matt DiBenedetto, Eric Almirola, Ryan Blaney, Cole Custer up here in the top 10, potentially going to get some stage points, and maybe even Kurt Busch as well, as they go down this front straightaway for the final time. And here comes Matt DiBenedetto to the inside, but it's not going to be enough there. Christopher Bell is going to come through to win stage 1. Yes, he does. DiBenedetto comes through to get second place here. Jay, a big moment right there for DiBenedetto now, as that's going to be a big gain for him, coming in 14 points below the cut line.
A big moment for a couple of these drivers here. DiBenedetto, Almirola, who's also below the cut line, and then Cole Custer as well, who was just above that cut line. We talked about how great of a race he had at Darlington. Well, so far, he's having a good race here at Talladega, doing everything he needs to as well.
So we'll see if the coming to the pit lane again, as it might be the safest option for the field to take there, as I didn't even realize when we got back going right away it was a 1 lap dash. But now stage 2 will come to a close at the end of lap 51. So like I said, we'll see if they come to the pit lane. They still have quite a bit of time, so we'll just let the pit cycle run out. If anything happens, of course, we'll highlight on it, but we're going to go for a quick break here from Talladega and come back with a live playoff update. Back from Talladega Super Speedway, getting ready to go green for the start of stage 2. It will be about a 21 lap sprint to decide the stage, which comes to a close at the end of lap 50. So of course we did a playoff update there at the end of stage 1. Jay, what are we looking at here in terms of the playoff situation for the start of stage 2?
Martin Truex Jr. is locked in because of his win at Las Vegas. Denny Hamlin is up by 49. Chase Elliott is in by 44. Blaney is in by 24. Byron is in by 18. Larson is in by 13. Eric Almirola now moves above the cut line to +5. Cole Custer is +4. Kurt Busch is now out. Kurt Busch is now below the cut line. He's out by 4. DiBenedetto is now out by 9. Kozlowski out by 11, and Logano is out by 30. He's going to be in a must-win situation going into the Roval.
And you know what? I think the odds of him winning at the Roval aren't the highest when you got to go up against a guy like Chase Elliott, as well as Kyle Larson at a road course this year, as we are underway for the start of stage 2. So Kyle Larson even lost a few points there in stage 1 now, with some key drivers getting some stage points, like DiBenedetto, like Almirola, as well as that 41 of Cole Custer, as well as you can see here in the background. Some drivers, of course, have some damage, specifically the 19, the 23, and the 15 have a lot of damage, and that held up Kurt Busch there on that restart. So he could be in a little bit of trouble here today as well in Talladega now, as we get back to this main pack of cars. Alex Bowman currently leading the way. Kyle Larson still has some front end damage that they have opted to not repair, so they're definitely confident that that's not going to affect their speed in that car with their horsepower now, as Kyle Larson currently on the inside line behind Ryan Newman, who stayed out at the end of stage one. But Jay, a bit more of a chaotic stage one than I think we anticipated, but fortunately we didn't wipe out too many cars, and some of the ones that got wiped out still have good speed here in this race.
Yeah, we still have a lot of things to happen in this race as well. I think we're still going to see this playoff picture shake up a bit. Certainly some more room here for more chaos in stage 2 and stage 3 once we get to that as well. But we might see the intensity cool off a little bit here. I think these drivers don't want to go as crazy as they have been throughout stage 1. They maybe want to get some laps logged in and make sure that they get to where they need to towards the end of this race, and also towards the end of the stage for those drivers who want to get themselves some points as well. And we also just might see less intensity because there's less cars. But these drivers ultimately, I starting to think now, are about the end of this race.
Kyle Busch leads the way over Eric Almirola there on the inside. Kevin Harvick up on the top with Alex Bowman. Kyle Larson in the middle. You're seeing drivers like Chase Elliott starting to get towards the back of this pack, as well as the 78, the 51, the 66. And then you got this line of 3 cars right here, Keselowski, Kurt Busch, and the 34, who are trying desperately to remain with that pack. They were set behind on that restart, so it's going to be very tough for them to get up there. They're really going to have to look at already at maybe stage 3 being their first option, or the next caution, of course, to get back up here with the main pack of cars. Now, as you see, up front still, actually, now the 12 of Ryan Blaney now, as he wiped out his teammates earlier in this race, which is not what he, of course, wanted to do, as he got Cole Custer up here in the mix. And Jay, once again, Cole Custer had an incredible debut to the playoffs there in Darlington with a great race, even was competing for a race victory at points in that race. And of course, that one race alone really propelled him to make it into this round. And here he is again in the first race of this round at Las Vegas. He put up another respectable run, and as well today is having a strong run as well, getting some stage points there where the majority of drivers didn't. So that 41 team has been very quiet and sneakily moving their way through these playoffs.
And so far, that 41 has been the definition of doing exactly what you need to do in the playoffs. He had he took advantage of some drivers having a bad race in Darlington, and he had a great race himself and put himself in a good position. He made this round of 12 because of that, and then he had a decent enough race last week where he was around the cutoff line, and then got himself some points in stage 1 to where he's now doubled the amount that he had before. He's now 4 above, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not a lot. It could certainly change, but for a driver like Cole Custer, I'm sure that's a lot to him and not where he expected to be. And he wants to build on that here, get some more stage points in this stage, and then once again get a good finish here at Talladega. He's just taken advantage of other drivers having issues so far and has done everything that he has needed to, and that team has performed really well.
One thing to note is that number 16 of Kaz Grala is close to 30 miles per hour off of what the leaders are running. The 23 of Bubba Wallace, similar situation. So those two guys specifically are going to be definitely a bit of an impact here on this main group of cars. We'll have to wait and see what kind of effect they have when they get to them now. As you can see, Kyle Busch up on the top trying to work with that number 6 car. Currently, I mean, right now about 20 cars in the main pack here as they go down this front straightaway. More drivers actually that are way off the pace than I think we anticipated here, as there's about 15 cars that are off the pace or out of this race here in Talladega now, as you see Blaney still out in front of this main pack. You got Chris Buescher up here on the outside, Corey LaJoie having a good run, Matt DiBenedetto again here, and I mean in the top 3. And Jay, if it stays calm like this, and DiBenedetto, he might have a legitimate chance here to be above that cut line at the end of today in Talladega. And of course, every time we come here, he always seems to be a threat. We couldn't even rule out maybe a Matt DiBenedetto victory here today, the only driver in the playoffs without a win.
I don't think we can rely on this race staying calm like it is, though. And these two Penske guys here leading this race 1-2 know that as well. We've seen moments, especially since this restart, where it's been calm, where these guys have kind of been separated, and we've seen them immediately get right back to 3 and 4 wide, several rows deep, racing really close with each other, and things pick back up. So things have changed here very quickly in this Talladega race, and I think we'll see them get back to being intense again. I thought they would maybe stay relaxed when I saw them doing that at the restart, but they have shown so far that they will go for it if they get the right runs, and I think we're going to see one build up right here.
Benedetto 3 wide in the middle. You got Austin Dillon up here in the mix. You got the number 17 of Chris Buescher and the 41 of Cole Custer leading that inside line 3 wide for the lead into turns 3, coming up already towards the final 10 laps of stage 2. Now just up in front already, they are closing in on that number 16 of Kaz Gralla. So here's the first test. How can this pack navigate through the 16? Then as soon as they get settled down after dealing with the 16, they have to deal with the 23 of Bubba Wallace now. As you see, the 16 is going to plant himself right in the path of anybody that he can find himself in front of now, as he tried to cover about 4 or 5 lanes at once. Now, as you can see, the effect that is going to have. And I think, Jay, that's our most frustrating thing with NR2003 is the fact that we don't have a way to get a car like that off the track.
Yeah, they just took Matt Benedetto from being in a great spot, so now he's back towards the back of this pack, and it really hurt a lot of these drivers. Playoff or no playoff, it really does hurt them, and can't stand it. I mean, Eric Almirola as well. Now the last car in this pack, and well, next to last car with the 7 still being held up by the 16. This is certainly one of the bigger things that I dislike about NR. I really wish that there was a way that you could make cars DNF or black flag them or what have you. Is now they're going to run up on the 23 and get right back into having another slow car in front of them.
There they go, tackling him down into turns 1. It might be a little bit smoother this time around since it's not a huge pack of cars. Now, what is not smooth is the frame rate at times here for us in NR 2003. But yeah, I mean, look at that. They just can't do anything now, as we've been shown potential things. Someone on Discord I know sent us a program, I guess it is, that you have to have running while you're playing NR 2003, that you can do double file restarts. I think there was something you could send certain cars to the back. There was a lucky dog rule. I don't know if Jay and I are going to utilize that or not, because we don't really know if it's okay to use on NR 2003. But Jay, I definitely think it's something we could use for sure if it did work successfully.
I do have a computer I can try it on that I no longer care about, so I might try that and see if it works. But yeah, it would be nice to have some kind of program that helps us out in that way, and it can also give us double file restarts as well. That's another thing that you and I want to be able to do really badly. But there's some I've looked into it before, and there's some things about the only way you can do it is if you change some certain coding with this game that is very illegal, and the owners of iRacing do not like you doing it. So that's why we haven't really looked into it, and that's another thing I need to check and see if that program does that. Because if it does, we're not trying that.
We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. It would be really nice, especially for next year, to have something like that when we start our NR 2003 series with the next gen cars. And that's another thing, Jay, I think we're looking forward to a lot, is we have no idea how the next gen cars are going to be on this game. And I mean, it could produce just some crazy races as well. And I think this first season that we've ever done on here has been an absolute blast to do at times. Sometimes it's been very frustrating with some of the races we've had, but overall it's been fun since we started it, and honestly cannot wait until we can get our hands on the next gen cars and do the same thing.
Yeah, I can't wait for it either. It's certainly fun to see how a season would play out, and one of the more realistic NASCAR games that we have out there. And it's in a lot of ways it's played along right with how the real life season has gone, but in a lot of ways it's also gone completely different as well. And it's been a really enjoyable season, and I'm glad that we're going to try it again next year as well. I'm excited to see what the next gen car is going to be like on this game, and I'm excited to see what it's going to be like in real life as well.
There you see, there's still some cars right now that are fast, like the 34, like the 66, the 2, the 1, the 7. They all have speed, the 17, the 3, and the 24, but due to being held up here on a restart and then held up by some lap traffic, they are no longer with that main pack. So there's about 24 cars that are competitive still here in Talladega. So if they can just get all safely through the rest of this stage, get built back up together, hopefully during the caution into stage 3, we'll have a really nice race there to the end of this race. And of course, we will have potential green flag pit stops coming in stage 3. We'll have to wait and see if that ends up happening or not, as Alex Bowman currently leads the way here through the tri-oval now as we look ahead, and they have to deal with another lapped car of Ross Chastain, and might have to deal with the 15 of Davison and even the 16 again before this second stage comes to a close. So I mean, Jay, this is going to be a thing that we see throughout the remainder of this race, and not much these guys can do about it.
Luckily for these drivers, that 42 is you know what? I thought he wasn't off pace, but it looks like he is. He's certainly slower than them because he's not in the draft, but I think he actually is off pace due to damage. and he's going to go right up and block Eric Almirola, who did all that work to get back up here after being caught behind by the 16. Well, looks like he might fall right back to the back of the pack again. Ryan Blaney going to the third lane here might be a genius move as long as that 48 doesn't, or as long as the 42, sorry, doesn't come up.
Oh, now he's going to get in behind the 14, and the 42 is going to get hung out right into the line. Blaney decided was going to be the best option to go for, so he might be regretting that now as they come down this front straightaway. So this is going to be a common theme throughout the rest of the day here in Talladega, and that's the worst part about plate racing in NR 2003. Yes, it produces some tremendous 3-4 wide racing here and there, but then you as well have that in there. You see the next target, the number 53 of James Davison, who's not as slow. He's going 184 miles per hour compared to Alex Bowman's 204, so there is a 20 mile per hour difference here in the closing laps of this second stage now, so it'll be interesting to see them tackle him again, and they very well, like I said, might still catch this number 16 car. I really hope they do not, because he is unbelievably off the pace now as Alex Bowman closes in on that number 15. Now he's going to go to the inside. Yes, he well into turns 1, but Kyle Busch is going to come through and take the lead instead over Alex Bowman. Now, Alex Bowman, if he would have ran the way he has in the playoffs throughout the whole season, I think we'd be talking about him as a threat to be in the round of 8 and maybe even contend for a Final Four position.
There's one consistent thing that Alex Bowman has done, though. Even though he's had some good races in these playoffs so far, I think he's still done what he's done so far this season. He's had showing of speed and really good for maybe the first couple of stages, and then by the time that stage 3 rolls around, he kind of slips back down the order and doesn't stay around the top of the order. And that's been a consistent theme for Alex Bowman this season. So I think that's something that they need to try and get that figured out in these last couple of races this season. Get themselves a little bit of momentum and a little bit of confidence built up heading into the next gen car, and then rebuild and reset and come back in with that entire Hendrick team looking strong next year.
Of course, all of Hendrick Motorsports has one, except for that number 48. William Byron has one win at Circuit of the Americas. Kyle Larson's won quite a few races. Chase Elliott has won 3 of them. Was looking at his 4th, I think it was, last week in Vegas until that caution came out due to debris on the track late in that race, and that set up a late race restart, allowing Martin Truex Jr. to pass him and go on to win that race. Cole Custer, not the biggest James Davison fan, I'm sure, here today in Talladega, because he's going to throw a block on him and actually disconnect him potentially from the draft, coming to 4 laps to go in the stage. Now Custer really needs to be on it from here on out here in stage 2 now, and you can see once they get done dealing with these guys, they start going at it again. But now, well, here we go, they have caught the 16 again. De Benedetto leading the way, not anymore, because Harvick is going to go around the outside and have a monstrous gap over the pack, and Jay, that might not be a good thing for Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, he's certainly going to get caught up by these guys. And the 16 just pulls up to the outside lane and is now destroying the outside lane. So that 16 is all over the track and also being extremely slow while doing it. And is, I mean, I really hope that he somehow finds a way to DNF in this race, because with so many laps left to go in this race, he's going to be a factor big time if he does not DNF.
Hopefully he gets caught up in some type of accident. Bowman to the inside, now 3 laps to go at the line in stage 2. Do they have any more traffic? They do have the 23 of Bubba Wallace, but I don't know if they will quite get to him. Yeah, they might, because he's only halfway down that back straightaway, and you're going to see that main pack come in the background right there. So he's got about a straightaway buffer here in 3 laps. So it'll be interesting to see if they get to him or not. Chase Elliott in the background just now getting past that 16 of Kaz Grala, the 8 of Tyler Reddick as well in the mix there, trying to move his way forwards now. As I mean, we look at the top 10 right now, it's looking good for Kyle Larson. I mean, Jay, surprisingly, after stage 1, he only finds himself 13 points above the cut line, and he didn't run bad in stage 1. It's just the guys that he didn't need to beat him were the ones that beat him and got some stage points. So Kyle Larson might need to be looking at getting some stage points right here.
He really does need to focus on getting stage points, and that's something I don't think that he was thinking about going into this round. He probably wouldn't have been thinking about that until the next round. But here he is having a bad race at Vegas, and it put him in a not necessarily a bad situation for anybody other than Kyle Larson. But for Kyle Larson, I think he considers it to be a bad situation, and he really does need to score some points here, get himself another gap built back up, and make sure that he does not find himself eliminated in this round, because again, he is one of the championship favorites.
Chase Elliott did lose the main pack due to being held up. Bubba Wallace is going to play a role here coming to the final lap of stage 2 here, and this is going to change. Oh my goodness, Bubba Wallace in front of the pack is going to cause an accident coming to the final lap. In stage 2, the 20 of Bell is going to get hit. Oh, a huge accident there. The 20 is going to go up and overhand. He is rolling faster than we saw Lightning McQueen in, I think, the Cars 3 movie go up and over in the opening scene. And Kaz Grala, oh, heaven is real, as now, oh my goodness, the 34 of McDowell is involved as well as the 16. It might not be over yet because here comes, oh, thank goodness. What in the world has happened? Again, at the end of stage 1, stage 1 is complete. We are going to call it right there because they are going to come down the pit lane, but we're not going to let that decide the stage 2 order. So this is the conclusion of stage 2. Jay, I hope you can get a picture of that because my phone is currently not on me. But there you see the top 10, and I mean, immediately we look at Eric Almirola of the playoff drivers. Him and Denny Hamlin are the only two. Oh no, Cole Custer as well. So 3 playoff drivers, and Cole Custer once again there as a big incident. Kyle Busch, I think, Jay, the most impressive thing about that is Kyle Busch was still able to hold on to the lead.
I'm not too sure that what I have to say about that, but yeah, Kyle Busch, if I was looking at it correctly, he got spun into the infield, right, and still held the lead, or at least pushed down into the infield. So that was impressive driving by that 18 car there.
Oh man, mixed
Yeah,
strategies.
strategy also going on here as well. This is
We're gonna keep that order like we said, because we knew it was gonna be weird, but nonetheless very interesting.
yeah, certainly I think questionable for those drivers who stayed out. Eric Almirola here might have just put himself in a fantastic position because these drivers are. I think that I don't know. I don't know how you can justify staying out here. I realize they haven't gone very long since the last caution, but this stage is a long stage here. You need every amount of fuel you can get in your car.
And the 23 of Bubba Wallace is still out on the track, so if he didn't have damage already, that was impacting him. I mean, we saw how far off the pace he was now. I'm surprised he can even keep up on the pace lap after that accident, as we're going to get a look at what just caused that crash. I mean, we know what caused it, and the 16 miraculously might still be in this race. I really, really, really hope not. But let's get a look at what just caused that accident here to end the second stage in Talladega. Here's what happened. Bubba Wallace way off the pace. Kyle Busch, the leader, coming to the final lap of stage 1, drives right into the back of the 23 who's coming down the track. The 20 has nowhere to go. He gets collected. The 4 barely misses it. And now it's game on because here comes the 42, barely squeezes through, but the 8 slams right into the back. The 9 car of Chase Elliott in the playoffs, nearly involved. And then the 16 of Kaz Grala is going to slam into the 16, or into the 8, sorry, as he goes around, and the 20 is upside down. We're going to get an onboard. The 34 as well, you saw in the corner there, get collected, but we have an onboard with Chase Elliott to see just how close he was to potentially having his season turned upside down. On board with the number 9 of Chase Elliott getting through this accident right here. He splits the needle there as the 8 goes one way, the 20 goes the other, and Elliott just barely gets through as you see the 20 tumbling in the background of Christopher Bell, who definitely will not get his first win of the year today. Back from Talladega Superspeedway, getting ready to go green for the start of the third and final stage. Of course, we have a live playoff update brought to you by Jay. What are we looking at here for the final stage?
Once again, Truex is locked in. Hamlin is now up by 50. Chase Elliott's in by 44. Blaney is in by 24. Byron is in by 18. Almirola is now in by 14. Larson is in by 13. Cole Custer is in by 7. Kurt Busch is out by 7. Matt DiBenedetto is out by 12. Brad Keselowski is out by 14. And Joey Logano is out by 33. Once again, Logano going to be in a must-win situation heading into the Roval.
Brad Keselowski, I mean, below that cut line, Matt DiBenedetto below the cut line, as well as Kurt Busch below the cut line here at the end of that second stage. They all got some work to do, but they still have realistic opportunities here today in Talladega to still get solid results. Now, one very big positive out of that accident in Talladega is a lot of the cars that were off the pace are no longer in the race. A very nice rhyme, by the way, while we're at it. But we look at the back here, and I mean, the 53, he looks to be maybe a little bit off, but you can see immediately we don't have anyone that's drastically off the pace. So throughout the majority of this final stage, at least for now, everybody that's on the track should be putting up a relatively decent competitive pace here to compete for potential race victory. Chase Elliott here has had 2 close calls already. Jay, we've seen 3 accidents. Chase Elliott's been nearly taken out in 2 of those 3 accidents here today in Talladega. So at some point, you think that luck is going to run out for that 9 car. I mean, the fact that they missed 1 is, I mean, in Talladega standards, lucky enough, but now they've missed 2 of them.
I think the track position for him is where his luck is running out. He's not had good track position at all night at all ever since that first wreck that he missed. And he's had a poor here. He started behind some poor cars there that gave him a poor restart. And he's disconnected with the lead pack, but he might be able to get hooked up with this 2 car here, and they should be able with those 3 cars there. They should be able to hook back on, even the 19 as well. They should be able to hook back onto this lead back here and get themselves back into contention. But yeah, Chase Elliott, he's certainly done a nice job of avoiding those wrecks tonight. That third one there was something to watch from his onboard view, and he's going to look to get himself back into this main pack here and go for the win.
Ryan Blaney leading the way, currently 24 points above the cut line at the start of this final stage. Kyle Larson still only 13 points above that cut line, so still 1 accident could put his season in a completely different position here before this race comes to a close. And we've still got quite a bit of racing to go, of course, now, as I mean, the final stage is longer than the first 2 stages combined. So yeah, we got a lot of racing left here in stage 3, where we will see a minimum of 1 pit stop. If it stays green, it will be, of course, under green flag conditions, but there is potential maybe even for 2 stops. It will be close if they stretch it as far as they can here in the first run. So we'll have to wait and see what happens now, as these guys are doing what they did earlier, which caused trouble. They're going 4 wide down this back straightaway. Hamlin side by side with Alex Bowman, and there you see Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick side by side in the middle. So Jay, these guys, I mean, they've seen what 4 wide can cause here today, and now they're not shying away from doing it in that final stage.
And you look at those 3 drivers up there in that very outside line. All 3 of those guys need to have decent point days. Ryan Blaney's in the best situation of those 3 guys, but Matt DiBenedetto and Eric Almirola certainly need to have a good finish here. Eric Almirola has done a nice job in the stages. He's given himself a bit of a gap now. He's went from below the cut line to now above it. But Matt DiBenedetto needs to do a little bit better job, and he needs to make sure that his car makes it to the end of this race. He can't put himself in positions like that where he's 4 wide on the outside.
And I mean, if you're a guy like Matt DiBenedetto or Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch, you cannot crash, because Kurt's 7 below, and Keselowski and DiBenedetto are both more than 10 points below the cut line. So, I mean, if they end up wrecking out, I mean, they're looking at a must-win situation, Jay. So, I mean, if they can just stay where they are, there's a chance they can still point a way in at the Roval. But, I mean, still, they got to be looking to get at least, less than 10 points below the cut line. And that's going to require them to stay up here till the end of that race and not get crashed out.
And I think for DiBenedetto, a must-win situation would be perilous for that team at the Roval. I don't think we would see him be competitive at the Roval and in line to compete for the win. But for Brad Keselowski, it may not be the absolute end of the world. We've seen him be competitive at road courses before. And the Roval is also it also has a chance to be chaos. For all I know, the 21 could go out and win that race. But Keselowski, I think he could look at that and having a decent shot at winning that race as well. So I don't think it would be a dire situation for Keselowski if he's in a must-win situation going into next week, but he certainly does not want to be in that situation in the first place, and he wants to make sure that he gets good points and is either close to the cut line or finds himself in if he gets a win.
There you see Austin Dillon leading the way. We've seen him up front a few times throughout this race. You got Cole Custer there in the 41 running very strong as well for Stewart Haas Racing. Honestly, been the best SHR car here today in Talladega. Now he's going to be 3 wide in the middle, though, with William Byron going up the inside. Now, Byron still only has 1 win this season as he takes the lead, and that was at Circuit of the Americas. I don't know, Jay, is that a bit surprising to you? We've seen Byron, of course, be strong. I mean, he comes into this third and final stage 18 points above the cut line, and like I said, he's been similar to Kurt Busch, I think, quietly strong, and they both, of course, only won 1 race for Byron. Kurt's won 2 races. So do you think Byron's capable of winning again before the season comes to an end?
I certainly do. I think it's surprising he's only gotten 1 win this season, and I think it's even more surprising that 1 win is on a road course. When I think of road course ringers or guys who are very good at road courses, I don't think of William Byron at all. So I think it's a little bit surprising to me that of his only 1 win this season, it came at a road course. But I think Byron certainly has every opportunity to win at every one of these tracks that we go to for the rest of the season, except for maybe the Roval, because again, I don't think of him as a road course guy. But he's been strong this season. He's been quietly strong. He's been in contention for some wins, and he's had a very good season overall. And another one of those guys that could be quietly a championship four favorite if he starts heating up a little bit.
3 by 3 by 3, the whole main pack right now. Just all three wide. Martin Truex Jr., he might not have no rear bumper, but he has repaired his car as this race has went on. That team has worked on it, and they've got the pace now to make a difference in this main pack now. And, I mean, Jay, as he actually forces it 4 wide in an aggressive move, but that team working on getting that 19 repaired could play a big role into maybe aiding Denny Hamlin to have an opportunity to win this race here in the long run.
And 4 wide there with 4 playoff drivers, 3 of them needing to have good points days and not have a wreck. So that was, I'm assuming, not a comfortable moment for any one of those drivers right there. And it's really, these guys are picking up the intensity now. They know what's on the line. We're in stage 3. There's no more guaranteed cautions. So you got to make sure you stay in this pack, and you also have to make sure that you put yourself in a good position. But there's still a long way to go. You can hang around at the back of this pack and then make a move with 3 or 4 laps to go and find yourself up front. So there is all the time in the world. These drivers don't need to make it happen right now on lap 63.
Oh, we got a crash in the background.
Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott, Cole Custer, Matt DiBenedetto involved as well. 4 cars involved as a caution will come out from Talladega now as, oh my goodness, the frames. But a big moment right there. Here comes that other pack. Thank goodness nobody was on the track. Not major damage. Anybody right there. Chase Elliott, of course, taking the brunt of that impact now as the caution is out. We are actually just immediately going to go into getting a replay here from Talladega. So let's get a look at what in the world just happened there. It was hard to see what happened, so let's see what happened. From the helicopter cam, you're going to see right here, Chase Elliott out of turns 4, glides up into the 17, and of course the 17 wasn't lifting at that point, and around they went collecting the 41, the 78, and the 21. The 21 got a little bit of right side damage. He should be okay. The 41 got some left side damage. He should be okay as well. I think the only one that's going to be really potentially off the pace, we don't know for sure, but that would be the 9 of Chase Elliott, who took damage on both sides of that car. So we'll see, of course, if they can get that fixed up. Kyle Larson already making his pit stop. He actually, I don't think, takes tires. He's just going to go right here as the 41's coming into his stall. They come together. Larson's into the side of the 41, and then the 41 backs up into him, into his pit stall, and damages him as well. A bunch of calamity here all of a sudden in Talladega, and now Kyle Larson is the latest victim in this downfall for Hendrick Motorsports. Here comes the pace car. Through the trial, well, it's a race against time. We mentioned Lightning McQueen earlier. This is a moment where can Kyle Larson beat the pace car out? And the final seconds, absolutely not. Kyle Larson is now a lap down as he has not even attempted to come back out on the track. You see the damage on that car as well. They got to fix that as well, as that is big playoff implications, Jay, for that number 5 of Kyle Larson, who's only 13 points above the cut line. He now has to hope that there is a lot of more playoff drama on the way in this race.
I think what's really going to hurt Larson here is I believe he has to be held for a full lap since he technically teleported back to his box. So I don't even think he's going to get out of the pit road or even be able to service the car until the pace car crosses the line this time around. He is going to be in a majorly bad situation, and is going to have to go for everything at the Roval.
Kyle Larson, the dominant driver of the year, at risk of elimination. We're going to take a quick break from Talladega and bring it back to what could be the final restart of the day. Back from Talladega, getting ready to go green, coming to lap 68. Kyle Larson, oh, there he goes. He's rolling now out of the pit lane. Fixed up their damage, but the real damage has already been done, Jay. They are 2 laps down after that pit road accident. So the only way Kyle Larson salvages anything is if we continue to have the same race that we've been having and continue to see wrecks. That's his only opportunity, is more crashes here, as he's as well going to be nowhere near the pack. So he's going to be, of course, getting swallowed up by them if they don't crash before they get to him.
Yeah, he's going to have to really hope that this race continues to be chaotic, and we see a lot of playoff drivers wind up down there below him. He does have every opportunity. There's way too many laps left. So he has every opportunity to pass some drivers if they start wrecking right now or, anytime within the next 30 or so laps. So he has every opportunity to still pass drivers still. He's just got to be careful that he doesn't want to getting himself collected in a wreck as well, because there's going to come a point where he winds up getting caught up in a wreck, or in this pack, and he'll have to navigate that as well.
So now we're going to see who's got pace and who doesn't after that accident back here. I mean, Chase Elliott, of course, took hits on both sides of his car, but he still might have the pace to be competitive in this race. So it might not be the end of the day. We talked about his luck. I mean, he missed 2 of the crashes, and now he's been a part of one, of course. Kyle Larson's fortunate. He's on the same straightaway as the main pack. So there you see Elliott get cleared. We know that 53 is off the pace. So these 2 drivers, specifically Custer, Elliott, might want to try and find their way around him as quick as possible now. But, I mean, Kyle Larson wants us to end exactly like this. He's got, 3, 4, 5 playoff cars that are only, in reality, about, 3, 4, 5 spots better than him. So it wouldn't be the end of the world for him in this scenario.
But those drivers have every opportunity to make passes themselves, and there's still a lot of time left in this race. And they're also with the lead pack. They can easily gain up spots here. It's not like those drivers are slow. They still have good pace in their car. One thing I'm curious about is if Larson is actually off pace himself. I'm not sure if that damage would have caused him to lose any kind of speed in his car, but it seems like it should be okay. He'll be off pace certainly to the leaders and get swallowed up very quickly once they do get to him. And I don't think he'll have a chance of staying in front of either Alex Bowman or whoever is the leader when they get to him. That was almost a really sketchy moment there for William Byron. He's lucky
not
he
on
was
the
able
lead
to
lap
move up there. And these guys here, they need to calm it down if they don't want to give Kyle Larson his playoff chances back.
I mean, yeah, if you're a playoff guy right now, you want Kyle Larson eliminated today, next week, sorry, at the Charlotte Roval. William Byron is currently a lap down. He's been a lap down at the majority of the race, trying to fight his way back onto the lead lap, and in a good position right now, but not good enough, of course, as you see Ryan Blaney. A constant trend we're seeing here in this final stage specifically, Jay, is the 48, the 12, and the 18. Those 3 guys specifically have been up front here for quite some time, so definitely, clearly, they got a lot of speed in those cars, all 3 different manufacturers, by the way. Now, I mean, do you think any of those 3 are realistic threats here to win this race, or who even knows still what's going to happen? We still at least have one more pit stop as well.
I mean, any one of these drivers in the lead pack right now is a threat to win this race. I think the 48 certainly does have a very good chance. We've seen him lead a lot of laps in this race so far, so he has some very good pace in that car. And then obviously he's also probably focusing on trying to win this race for his teammates as well, to make sure that no one else in the playoffs locks themselves in. Because if someone like Ryan Blaney, who's right behind him, or that 41, or actually not the 41 anymore, the 10, any one of those guys who is not locked in at the moment, if they get locked in on a win, that will hurt Chase Elliott and specifically Kyle Larson as well. So I think that's another thing that the Hendrick team is probably all talking to the 48 right now, saying, don't you dare let anybody pass you.
Looking a lot calmer right now compared to what it has recently here in this main pack before that last caution had come out. Still a good chunk of racing to go. Another 40 or so laps remain in Talladega. Like we said, one more pit stop at the absolute minimum. So what we are going to do here from Talladega for the first time today is it is time to get amped in the Geico 500, or whatever this race is called here in Talladega. Back from Amped. The intensity starting to pick up a little bit in this main pack. There you saw a lot of single file action, Jay. The comments, it's been all race long. A bit surprising. We still have a lot of cars in this pack to create 3x3, but they're just maybe deciding, you know what, let's just try and make it to the end of this race maybe first.
I think that is the strategy for the moment. Yeah, there's nothing else to gain at this point. There's no more stage points to try and go for. Now you just got to survive to the end of this race. So that's probably what these drivers are focusing on. They have pit stops coming up. They're probably talking back and forth with their team about strategy. If they want to try and stay fuel, what lap they want to come in, who they want to come in with, all that kind of stuff. So this team, or the pack, sorry, is probably just going to be kind of calming down for the moment while these drivers figure everything out, get strategies aligned, and then once they do their pit stops, they can go right back at it and get to the end of this race and start to make some moves happen and make 3 wide happen again.
Alex Bowman out in front, the only Hendrick Motorsports driver this season without a race victory. We'll see if he can hang on to the end of this race. We are going to wait. Actually, I see Kyle Larson coming up, so we're going to let these guys deal with him before we take our final break on the day now, as he could play a factor. We saw Bubba Wallace play a role in going a lap down earlier when he was way off the pace and actually led to Christopher Bell barrel rolling down the front straightaway. So lap cars can certainly change everything at any moment of this race. But just look how calm it is here in Talladega now. Is honestly, Jay, I did not expect this, even if we only had like 10 cars left remaining. I'm very surprised to see this.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see it as well. But again, I think it just goes into these drivers maybe playing a bit of strategy at the moment and wanting to run these laps out and make sure they make it to the end of this race. A lot of these playoff guys know what's on the line. They know now that there's no more stage points, so they have to make it to that lap 113 in order to score those crucial points that they need. So I think this is what we're seeing with these. Wow,
Dude.
Larson almost blocking his teammate. He needs to realize who's in the lead there, and Alex Bowman is doing what he needs to do to help Larson out, and Larson almost blocked him and caused him to wreck.
So Larson right there, he does end up going a third lap down, as he's going to plant himself right in front of the 18 of Kyle Busch, as now everyone's getting all grouped up together. Bowman continues to lead the way. Blaney all the way to the outside here. Might not be a great call for him, as he has 0 draft. As you can see, it's going to certainly cost him some time. But now as that pack works through that, they're going to get through that number 5 cleanly. We're going to take a quick break here for the final time today from Talladega Superspeedway. We'll be right back here for the closing laps. Crash! Talladega Superspeedway. We come back just as a multi-car accident, a terrible accident, has occurred. The 14 up and over. Of course, we'll have a replay. This is not the first time this season we have been under commercial break as the crash has occurred. It was a big one. Now is 18 of Kyle Busch. No playoff contenders, thank goodness. But the 14 is going to be out. And we just had a major accident here, which is going to be a beneficial caution for some select drivers, as we're going to get a look at the replay here in Talladega. Here's a look at what just happened. So down the front straightaway, Kyle Busch is going to hook the number 3 of Austin Dillon into the 14. A massive accident right there. The 14 nearly into the catch fence as the caution flies there. Jay, the 14, an innocent bystander, and same for the 3 of Austin Dillon, as I don't know what Kyle Busch was trying to accomplish.
That was a hook and a half, and it just sent him right up into the track, and there's absolutely nothing the 14 could do, or the 3, honestly. Huge incident for that 14. That was, I don't know how he didn't go into the catch fence with the way that momentum was carrying. That was a violent impact.
And the one of Kurt Busch barely squeezing through before he almost got cleaned out. As pit stops are happening, here's a look going into break of Kurt Busch, who nearly got wiped out in that accident. Back from Talladega, there was no accidents on the pit lane this time. As you can imagine, all the cars involved in that accident are out of this race. And an interesting scenario. So these guys pitted lap 81 for about the top 5-6 drivers. And then everybody on back pitted on a lap later, on lap 82. And a field run pretty much at this version of Talladega caps out at about 30 laps. Well, what are these guys doing on their field? About 30 laps. So there might be no one here that makes it, of course, Jay, but of course everybody that's about, I think, 6th place or lower have the best opportunity, as about the top 5 or 6 came in a lap earlier. But nonetheless, this adds a whole nother bunch of drama to this race.
I think the only thing that might have saved all of these drivers is the fact that we ran several laps under caution, so they might be able to make it just due to that. But if they can't make it, those first 6 or 7 have to be the ones that we immediately look at as the drivers who are not going to make it, and they're going to have to hope that they can save enough, which is a tall task or tall order to ask for here at Talladega, especially depending on if they have to save more than one lap, that's going to be virtually impossible.
So we're back underway, and if I learned anything from that last caution, it's simply that no matter how calm the pack is, nobody's safe, because that was a nice, calm race we had going on there, and then Kyle Busch, of course, changed everything in the blink of an eye here as we go down this back straightaway. Less than 30 laps to go in Talladega. It's been a very fascinating race, I think I would call it, Jay. We have seen multi-car accidents multiple times, but surprisingly we haven't seen a big crash wipe out the majority of the field, and there's still a possibility that happens before this race comes to a close.
There is very much still a possibility that happens, but we've honestly seen so many cars taken out of this race in so many separate events that I'm not too sure we will see another big one, just because I don't know if the intensity can be built up. But I can be proved extremely wrong very quickly here. That they're not terribly crazy at the moment, but we're winding down the laps here. They're going to start going for it eventually, and these guys are going to stop giving breaks to each other. We're going to see them making more moves and squeezing into to holes that maybe not, or that maybe they wouldn't have early in the race, like maybe the 6 just did there on the 48. The 21 diving inside of the 43 here. The 21 knows he's got to do everything that he can to win this race. And the same thing for Kurt Busch and the outside of the one car.
So, I mean, we look currently at these playoff drivers right now. William Byron, who came into this stage 18 points above the cut line up here. Actually, I keep forgetting he's a lap down. So, not much he can do right now. If he's leading when a caution comes out, he'd be looking pretty good. But you got Matt DiBenedetto, who's 12 points below the cut line up there in second place. That is Kevin Harvick leads the way. Keselowski below the cut line up here in the mix as well. So, Jay, we're seeing, some key drivers, Kurt Busch as well, drivers that are below the cut line getting up into the mix. So Kyle Larson, of course, there on the inside, not a lot he can do right now, 2 laps down. But if you're Kyle Larson, you're as well seeing these guys below the cut line up here in the mix. You got to be very concerned if you're him.
Yeah, especially when he sees the 2 and the 21 up there towards the front of this pack, and they're scoring some good points compared to Kyle Larson at the moment. So I'm sure that it is getting more and more. What's the word I'm looking for? Stressful down in that 5-car crew. I assume all of them right now know that what is on the line, especially when they're the championship favorites, and at the moment they're looking like they're going to lead this race around the cut line, if not below it, with the way that things currently stand. But I noticed Chase Elliott, he's lost the pack as well, so he's another guy that even though he's 44 points above, he's not had the best race so far, and currently at the moment he's not having the best finish either, if it stays where this is. So we're having some Hendrick cars kind of struggle here at Talladega, and I think that's something that we're not used to seeing from Hendrick at Talladega.
Yeah, as of right now, I mean, the 24, he's got a clean car. The 48 is relatively clean. I do see some front end damage on him, but of course, Elliott was involved in an accident. Kyle Larson has run into trouble on the pit lane, and right now, I mean, has decent speed. He doesn't have the best speed. He still can see he is holding up. Who's behind him is just not to a severe amount to where they're going to end up losing contact with the pack. There's, you see Truex go by on the inside. So Keselowski now trying to fade in behind that number 17. A lot of single file once again, similar to the beginning of that first and opening run. But we look at what we got going on. Just over 20 laps to go in this race. Now, Jay, I mean, when do you make your move at Talladega? We don't know how the rest of this race is going to be. If it's all single file, you might want to try and get that move made early so that way you can be in position here at the end of this thing.
Yeah, I think that you might be looking at doing that now if that's what you think this race is going to be, but I don't think there's a single driver left in this field at the moment that thinks this race is going to stay single file to the end of it. Even though we have a bit of a disconnect between the first several cars and then the next several cars, they can make a pack out of just 6 cars, and they can make some runs happen, and you can go from being, let's say, DiBenedetto in second right now, scored in the second, third car in line. You can go from being that third car in line back to the last one in line in a matter of seconds if you have somebody like Hamlin or Ryan Blaney get hooked up there on the bottom and they go to the inside of you. So these drivers have to be aware of the runs coming from behind them, and they have to be aware of drivers willing to go with them if they want to try and make a run. But those guys back here in this little second group, they can get grouped up together, and they can make a run back towards this lead pack if they'll just stop racing each other.
I think that 10 car might be a little bit off the pace It's certainly looking like that here. I mean, since he's been leading that group, they've lost contact with the 19 of Martin Truex Jr., so it might not be a good thing. I mean, he's going 199 miles per hour compared to Truex's 202 miles per hour, so they might want to look at getting another car out in front, but at this point, it's already too late. They've lost the draft, so that second pack in some trouble, to say the least here. That 15 of Davison, only 180 miles per hour right now. So before this race comes to a close, they're at least going to have to go through Davison here in these final 20 laps at Talladega. But as well, we don't know if these guys can make it on field even. So, I mean, if you're a guy like Kevin Harvick, Jay, who we haven't seen leading in I don't know how long, but here he is out in front. I would put my money against him probably making it at this point. So if you're a guy tucked in behind him like Benedetto, this could be the smartest way to go about this finish here, staying where he is at in line, because this gives him the best opportunity to save enough fuel to make it to the end.
That could also be another reason that we're not seeing anybody really try and challenge for the lead at the moment, because they know that they're close on fuel and they know that they need to save fuel. And if you're the leader, you are the worst one in the field at saving fuel. You cannot save as much as you can if you're running in third, fourth, fifth, sixth in that line. The further back you are, technically, the further or the more fuel that you can save, and the more you can run half quarter throttle, three-quarters throttle. So those guys, I'm sure, are fine letting Harvick lead at the moment, and Harvick, he may be wanting to jump out of the lead in a moment if he feels like he can't make it.
Comparing speeds here now as we have a new car out in front of that little second pack. 197 miles per hour for Ty Dillon. Truex at the tail end of the main pack. Or actually, no, he's not even... he's at a 3-car pack. He's going about a mile to 2 miles per hour faster right now as it is this breakaway right here. Now, of course, things could change once they reach the 15 of James Davison. It could stack this group up enough and push them back to that second 3-car group, and then we'll see what happens from there. But Hamlin with a move to the inside of that number 6 of Ryan Newman. And Jay, we've seen out of Denny Hamlin what we have seen in previous plate races throughout the years. He manages to keep himself out of these sticky scenarios where he gets involved in a crash. He hasn't really been getting all the stage points in the world, but I think that's all a part of the plan, because he finds himself at the end of these races when he can be aggressive, when there's not as many cars in the mix, and that's how he's gotten to victory lane at these types of tracks so many times.
That is exactly true, and he didn't need to fight for stage points that much either. He came into this race in an extremely good position, and he's now, after stage 2, 50 points above that cut line, so he has a very good gap.
Could be locked in.
Go for the Yeah, he can really go in here and try and get this win and just make sure he's locked in that way, not even have to worry about points. But if he does wind up wrecking or something, the amount of cars left in this race are still not going to put him even that bad of a situation for points. So Denny Hamlin, at this point, I think he you can look at him to be as aggressive as possible.
And look at this second pack. Those 3 cars that were together are now a part of this big pack right here. And if they can find a way to get organized, build up enough speed, I wouldn't rule out them running down that main pack, but them actually being able to organize and have the speed is going to be a tough thing for them to do now. And I think they're going to have to hope. And you can see more drivers have actually lost the draft. Newman, surprisingly, way back. I'm not sure if something happened right there while we were focusing on that second group, but do pay attention to this. They're coming up on the 15 of James Davison, so that is certainly going to play a role now, as that second pack is about 8 seconds behind this main pack. But oh my goodness, that right there, Jay, if there's going to be a wreck, it could be that second pack any moment now.
It could be with Kyle Larson right there. He's got really close on the side of the 41, but they're able to keep it clean. And as these cars start falling out of this lead pack, that makes them slower and slower, and these cars start dropping back to the second pack. That'll only make them faster and faster. So there's going to come a point where the turnover is going to happen, and no matter if they're 3 wide back there or not, they're just going to be overall overly faster than this lead group if they only have 3 or 4 cars left in it, as they do right now.
And here they come up on the back of the 15 of Davison, and Harvick can't decide where he's going to go. Hamlin is going to take it to the inside. Oh my goodness, he's going to hold up at both lanes into turns 3. Oh no, oh, and Harvick might go around the outside. No, they're just going to stay planted behind the 15. This is exactly what you want to see if you're that second pack of cars. Benedetto's going to get back up into the mix. Hamlin to the inside, 3 wide for the lead for a brief moment here as Kurt Busch has found himself up in the mix, and Hamlin's going to get to that inside there and get ahead. But I mean, Matt Benedetto, that worked out perfect for him. He's back in the draft and now has a chance to maybe win this race.
And he's going to, Ryan Blaney, he's going to get up here and get himself right under the 15 of James Davis and not even have to be held up by him. Now he's going to need a couple cars here, the 4 and the 12, to jump down in line and help him. They may have just immediately disconnected from this lead group here because of that 15 holding up the 4 and the 12. But look at that pack behind them.
That's
They,
where we need to focus.
even with the drivers being held up there by the 15, they're still off compared to what they were 2 laps ago, and they were only 8 seconds behind. I noticed they lost a second and a half the lap before the drivers caught the 15, and even when they were stuck behind the 15, they still barely gained anything. So this pack right here is certainly not going to catch these leaders at this current rate.
You know, I don't know what happened to the 6 of Newman, because he was in the lead pack and then all of a sudden just lost an unbelievable amount of speed because they're about to swallow him up, and then they're going to have to deal with James Davison shortly thereafter here, probably in another couple of laps or so, as they're going to try and manage to get around that number 6 of Ryan Newman, closing in on the final 10 laps of this race here in Talladega. And you see 3 wide, actually, for the lead. Hamlin on the outside, Kurt Busch in the middle, and Kevin Harvick on the inside. Byron, of course, not racing for the race victory here today, but still trying to do whatever he can now as we look at, of course, Kurt Busch, 7 points below the cut line. Jay, that would be one of those guys that Kyle Larson desperately would not want to see win this race. And same for DiBenedetto. It's already bad enough that they're running up here in the mix for the win in the first place.
Yeah, he doesn't want to see either Kurt Busch or DiBenedetto in victory lane. The best case scenario for Kyle Larson at the moment is that 4 car in victory lane. He doesn't want to see, I don't think, a single playoff driver in victory lane, but much less any of them below the cut line. Man, they get really close when they're 4 wide like that. I don't know how they avoid contact most of the time. But Kyle Larson is just hoping at the moment. I think he's the 4's biggest fan and really hoping that Kevin Harvick finds his way into victory lane.
Another look there, you see Harvick. I mean, he's been doing a good job managing this gap, and still the question is there, can these guys even make it to the end of this race? We could see some field strategy end up deciding the outcome here in Talladega, which would be quite the moment here, as Kyle Larson right in the mix here of this second group. Not much he can do at this point in Talladega now, except just try and survive and bring it home in the best place possible. Now as you see Hamlin up the inside of that number 1 of Kurt Busch, Blaney up here in second place. And I mean, Jay, if you're Blaney, do you maybe even look at trying to get connected with that 21 of Matt DiBenedetto, maybe trying to help him at all?
I think if you're Ryan Blaney, you're looking at the amount of cars around you right now and looking at who's in front of you, and you're no longer thinking about teammates. Even though it would be best for DiBenedetto to win, Ryan Blaney, I think, at the moment is thinking about himself and thinking about trying to put himself in victory lane, which I think is the thing that team needs to do. They can't count on a good finish at the Roval next week, even though he has been strong there before. I'm sure he wants to put himself in victory lane as well. So DiBenedetto at the moment, if he winds up putting his way in front of Ryan Blaney, then Ryan Blaney might help out DiBenedetto, but I don't think Blaney's going to sacrifice his position to help DiBenedetto.
There you saw that second pack catches Davison. Thank goodness it didn't result in an accident for these drivers. And you got some key drivers in this pack, of course. You got Almirola, you got Keselowski, Larson, the 41 of Cole Custer as well. But they all cleanly will be able to navigate their way through, as DiBenedetto clearly just doesn't have the speed he needs, as now he's losing connection again to this main pack. So definitely dealing with a bit of a horsepower issue right there. Hamlin pulls out to the left-hand side. Now, Jay, one disadvantage here is we've got 2 Fords and 2 Chevys. Hamlin has really no manufacturer help, and that could come back to hurt him here racing for the win in these final 10 laps.
It could come back to hurt him, but I don't think it's going to play that big of an issue here or much of a factor here, because these Fords and Chevys are on different teams from each other. They don't want to see each other succeed. They want to go for everything themselves. And then William Byron is also a lap down, so he may play into Kurt Busch's favor a little bit. But again, he doesn't want to see anybody below the cut line win either. So, William Byron might actually be backing himself out of this pack to just not provide any help to these drivers here, and just hope that Kevin Harvick's able to win this race.
Kevin Harvick would be the best case scenario for a few of these drivers, especially that 5 of Kyle Larson, coming to 9 laps to go in Talladega. Didn't think it was going to look like this in the closing laps, even after that last caution, so a bit surprising there, to say the least. But next question is, Jay, do you think that these guys are going to be safe on fuel, or do you think it's going to come right down to that wire?
I think it's going to be very, very, very close. We might see a situation like we have seen before, where on the last lap coming to the checkered flag they pit. We've seen that a couple times this season, or with just a couple laps to go, some of these drivers have to pit. So I think it really just depends on how much fuel these guys were able to save, if they needed to save fuel. I think that that lead pack probably hasn't saved a single bit of fuel. That also could be another reason why this lead or the second pack is not catching them as much. Maybe all those drivers together are saving fuel, and this lead pack is just running all out and going as hard as they can. So, if there's anyone that doesn't have fuel, I think it's certainly the lead pack. This second pack here may have saved enough.
Cody Ware or Corey LaJoie could very well win this race here in Talladega. Ross Chastain won this race earlier in the year. Maybe not even count him out if field comes down to it. So it's going to come down to the wire here, coming up on the final few laps in Talladega. We mentioned earlier we had done some testing. The maximum you could go was anywhere between 28 to 30 laps, and these guys would have to do about 30 to 31 laps after pitting. They did have, of course, a few caution laps, so that's what makes it, I think, so close. And I really don't know if it's going to work. But Jay as well, they very well could be able to stretch it to maybe 31, 32, and they just chose not to in practice because there wasn't a need to. So there is a world for sure that they could all maybe make it still.
Yeah, there certainly is a position where all these drivers can make it already on fuel, and there really is no fuel game to be played. But I keep looking at that time going bigger and bigger and bigger between that first group and that second group. And I realize that the first group is all in a single file line, but there's only 5 cars in this group. There is no way they should be running seconds a lap faster than the second group, even though they're racing each other. There's so many cars in this group that they should be stronger than those 5 cars, and they're just not gaining. They're constantly losing time. So I have to think that they're maybe saving fuel, and these lead drivers are just going all out and not saving anything.
And we're getting close now to wherever caution comes out. That would be the end of the race. Now, a couple more laps, about 109 would probably call it. Maybe 110. That would be the absolute latest, probably. But I think 109 would be the cutoff for a restart. So, crunch time here for these guys. And, Jay, that's another thing. We don't have overtime anymore. We've tried it, of course. We flirted around with, bringing that into the series. But right now, today, and throughout the whole playoffs, they don't have that. So if you're Denny Hamlin, you might want to make that move right now just to be safe, because you don't know if that caution's coming by looking at the way that second pack's racing.
But if you're Denny Hamlin, I don't know if you can make that move right now either, because the car you have behind you is the 24. And again, he doesn't want to have anybody locked in either. So Denny Hamlin may not have any direct help behind him, and he may not be able to get any kind of run going. He's going to have to try and look to the inside here on one of these straightaways, like we're seeing the 12 do right there on the 24, and even the 24 to the 11. So Denny Hamlin's actually going to get hung out here.
A big moment right there. 5 laps to go from Talladega. Lap 109 of 113. Kevin Harvick has been out front for the majority of this final run. He won the Daytona 500 in 2021. He won the Daytona Road Course, and ever since then he has been so far off. Made the playoffs only because of those wins he was able to pick up, and was the first round elimination. Imagine, Jay, with the regular season he had, and if he found a way to squeeze into this round and then comes out and wins Talladega, he would have been in the round of 8, having a chance to make it into the championship 4.
Which I think would have been a huge shakeup and a huge upset as well. But I honestly don't think he would have been able to do much in that round of 8 either. He genuinely has not done anything since he won those first 2 races. He's struggled all season long, and he's really underperformed from what we expect from Kevin Harvick and what he expects from himself. And he could find a way to get into victory lane here at Talladega, but it's not really going to mean anything other than he gets another win.
There's a nice gap between the 12 and the 4. I think if Blaney gets to that 4, he might want to look at taking that run potentially coming up on the final 3 laps here from Talladega. They're all lined up there behind that 4 of Harvick. Will Ryan Blaney take the risk? No, Hamlin. He's going to go once again up the inside of the 4. And that's another thing, I think, Jay, that's allowing that 4 to stay out, is these guys continue to swap back and forth and fight as hard as they can for second place.
And no one wants to get up to him and try and make the same move that they are on the drivers in second, third, fourth place. They get up to the rear of or the back bumper of Kevin Harvick, and then they just kind of sit there and they don't try to make any moves on him. So I think that we're gonna have to see somebody make a move, and then Kurt Busch immediately is gonna go right back onto the attack to Denny Hamlin, put himself back into second place. We're gonna have to see somebody make a move into one of these turns on Kevin Harvick if they want to get past him.
It is 3 laps to go in Talladega now. Will they make it on field? It's starting to look like they will now, as you see in the second pack. A lot of action there as Hamlin gets shuffled all the way to the back. Not looking good in favor of him here, as we, of course, see if they can stay out of trouble in the second pack to the end of the race. And you see Hamlin, he is going to need some serious help. Now the 1 car is right on the back of that 4 of Kevin Harvick here down the front straightaway. Come to the final 2 laps in Talladega. Blaney to the inside, just about not going to make it happen right there. Now as Kurt is right on that back bumper. Jay, if you're 2 laps to go in this position, Kurt Busch is in, when do you make that move?
I think you have to make it right now heading into turn one. You've got to do it any chance you see to get to the inside of Kevin Harvick. He had a big run down there at the front straightaway. He pushed Kevin Harvick, and I think he should have. Denny Hamlin is on pit road, I think I just saw.
Yes, Denny
Yes,
Hamlin
Denny Hamlin.
pits.
That means these drivers may not be able to make it to the end of this race. So now we do have a fuel game.
And, I mean, if everyone can make it, Denny Hamlin just lost a bunch of points. Now, fortunately, he has a huge buffer. That's not going to really put him in a terrible position. But coming to the final lap, can everybody make it is the real question. Or will they risk it and stay out? You see more cars coming into the pit lane. The main 3 are going to stay out. Blaney to the inside. Now, let's look at that second pack really quick. They actually have a long ways to go. So, coming to the final lap in Talladega. And now, lapped cars might play a role in this finish as well, so don't rule that out now. Second pack coming through. Are they going to come into the pit lane? It's hard to tell right there as we get a look of what's going on up front. Harvick continues to lead the way. Only one driver out of that second pack comes into the pit lane. Harvick leads the way down the back straightaway for the final time. Blaney is side by side with William Byron. Oh, he is clear. He's only going to have one opportunity, but Jay, they're side by side. Worst case scenario for Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, they're coming up right on the lap cars right here. Ryan Blaney's got to shoot to the outside right now. Put himself to the outside of Kevin Harvick. He does so, but Chase Elliott's there, so it's not going to work for him at all. Now, Kurt Busch is going to go to the inside of William Byron, but he's not going to have any chance of getting to the inside of Kevin Harvick.
And Kevin Harvick is going to hang on to win in Talladega, his 3rd win on the year, eliminated from the playoffs. A miserable season, and he gets his 2nd plate race in the final NASCAR Gen 6 race at a plate track. Here comes the second pack that still, of course, has to come to the line through the tri-oval for the final time. Denny Hamlin was not able to make it. Heartbreaking for him. You see how many points he's given up, at least this pack right here, as they come through to cross the line. Some crucial positions right in the mix there for that second pack as well. What a race in Talladega. We saw some big impacts here today. Denny Hamlin, though, is going to come through to cross the line. Instead of a top 5, he is crossing the line still for a respectable 16th place finish. So really not a huge hit to that 11 of Denny Hamlin, but still nonetheless he lost quite a few points there right at the end as Kevin Harvick gets his 3rd win on the year. Kurt Busch, the highest playoff driver, and that is great news for him, of course, going into the Charlotte Roval, where we will have the playoff grid up at the end of this episode. But Jay, what a race we witnessed for the final Gen 6 race at Talladega.
It was certainly a wild race, but I think it was a different wild than you and I expected. There was certainly some crashes, but there wasn't the big one. There was just a lot of different things that went on that had issues for playoff drivers, like the issue with Kyle Larson or William Byron getting stuck a lap down, Denny Hamlin running out of fuel there with just 2 to go. So there was a lot of stuff that happened in this race that still made it chaos. It was just a much different chaos than you and I expected. I think that anyone expected going into this race. But Talladega, I mean, it always proves to be something. It always proves to be a show. And it gave us the wild race that we were hoping for, and it certainly proved to be a wild card. And now we go into another possible wild card of the Roval next week for the elimination race. I tell you what, Gary, I cannot wait. There is going to be a lot of stuff on the line there, especially for Kyle Larson.
I've done some testing there already at the Charlotte Roval. Depending on your AI settings, there is definitely a recipe for some chaos at the Charlotte Roval. So that's going to be a wild one. I mean, before we end it, just looking at the finishing order, some standouts. Of course, Logano, last place, must-win situation for him with Penske Racing in the Charlotte Roval, as well as, of course, we got Kyle Larson, as Jay touched upon. He ended up in 22nd place. So not the end of the world for Kyle Larson, but we know it's still going to be a close call, as some key drivers that were below the cut line had way better finishes than him here today, and he did not really pick up any stage points. So this is going to be big for Kyle Larson, especially now. As always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, you do know what to do. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time of your day to spend your time watching us here at Talladega Superspeedway. Next week, the round of 12 finale at the Charlotte Roval will decide who makes it into the round of 8 as Kevin Harvick picks up his 3rd win on the year at Talladega Superspeedway. Thank you all for watching, and have yourselves a great day, everybody.